There are many different idols in this world people worship and serve rather than the true God. Some of these are fairly obvious because they're physical statues and shrines like Buddha. Others are a little less obvious, like money, jobs, earthly pleasures, etc. But there's still another that may seem incomprehensible. For there are actually some who have a false god named God. Although they believe in many things the Bible teaches about God, they do not accept everything it tells us about Him. So they have established their own God named God, having exchanged the truth about God for a lie in order to fit their own desires, as you can read in Romans 1, verses 24 and 25. First, think about a God who does not punish. There are many people who worship and serve a God who loves mankind so much that He sent His only begotten Son to this earth as a sacrifice for sin, and even cite biblical proof of such a God, like John 3 and verse 16. Yet they claim that since this God is so full of love, He will not possibly condemn anyone to hell. They often claim that the God of the Old Testament was a harsh and severe God who punished evil, but that the God of the New Testament loves people too much to punish them. However, people who worship and serve such a God worship and serve a God who really does not exist. For the Bible, even the New Testament, teaches that the true God is a loving God and a severe God who punishes evil. Romans 11, verse 22 says, "Therefore consider the goodness and severity of God. On those who fell, severity, but towards you, goodness, if you continue in His goodness. Otherwise you also will be cut off." Second, think about a God who considers man's happiness more important than obedience. There are many people who worship and serve a God who they believe is more concerned about them being happy and experiencing the good things of life than He is about them obeying what He tells them to do in the Bible. So anytime they must deny themselves of what they desire to have or experience in order to keep God's commandments, they believe that God would rather them do whatever makes them the happiest. And therefore, if that means an unscriptural divorce and remarriage, this God would want them to go for it. If that means to go out drinking with friends, this God is perfectly okay with that. If that means going to a ball game instead of church services, this God would want them to root for their favorite team. Yet to worship and serve this God is to worship and serve a God who really does not exist. For the true God expects you to deny yourself whenever your desires and His will conflict. In Luke 9 and verse 23, Jesus said, "If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." And then third, consider a God who controls everything that happens. There are many people who worship and serve a God who they believe is like a puppet master and pulls all the strings for everything that happens on this earth. They reason that since God possesses perfect knowledge and complete power, then there could never be anything that happens that is not directly caused by this God. So if someone dies, it is because this God made that happen at that specific time. If someone is in an accident, it is because this God chose for it to be that way. If someone hurts another person, it is because this God made it happen. And if someone is lost or saved, it is because this God pre-selected who would be saved and lost. Yet to worship this God and serve this God is to worship and serve a God who does not really exist. For although the true God is in control of all things, this does not mean that He directly controls everything. There is much that God has simply set into motion on this earth and does not directly interfere with. For instance, Ecclesiastes 9 and verse 11 says, "I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all." There are many ways people distort the teachings of the Scriptures in order to form a false god for themselves, named God. Yet everything we need to know about God has been revealed to us in God's creation and in God's Word, Romans 1, verses 19 through 25. It is not for us to change who this God is, but simply to believe in Him, accept who He is, worship and serve him as the true God.